I think we're live. I guess I could pull up the thing. It's saying right now, hello, everybody.
Hey!
Right now, it's telling us, at least on my screen, that nobody's watching us. I don't know if that's true. People out there that are watching.
That's okay. We're gonna work like we have a huge audience here today. It tells me that we're live, and so let's talk. I'll let you go first.
Well, let me see. I want to make sure that we're live. Oh, now it looks like we got people watching.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're live. We're still talking and repeating the words "we're live," but we're going to get started in just a second as more people trickle in. But I am John Ivy, and I am here in Sacramento actually today, in my lovely shelter apartment where I spend most of my time now.
Hey, I am, what's my name? I kind of forgot. I am Kim, and hi, Natalie. She's saying hi to us from the chat. I am streaming to you from good old, livable, lovable Lodi in my bedroom. So, yeah, how are you guys doing? Hi, someone's saying hi, guys. All right. So I guess I will just go ahead and get started a little bit. So, John and I are really passionate about teaching you guys a little bit about civic engagement and sharing our knowledge with you. And so tonight, just to give you a very high level overview of what we're going to talk about, we are going to recap some items that we discussed last week, about making sure that you get yourself registered to vote, and you take the census. And, again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about tonight what is on the ballot, y'all. So let's go ahead. I'm going to hand it over to John, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff.
Okay, yeah. So the first thing we want to do, the same thing we said last week, like Kim said, was that we want to make sure that everybody is registered to vote. We got an election coming up. You can go to vote.ca.gov. And you could register right now while you're watching us in the background or listening to us in the background. The same is true for the census. If you haven't filled out your census or your household hasn't, or you're not sure what to do, just go to 2020census.gov and you can participate. You'll be helping out your community. You'll be helping out democracy. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to us. Let me see. And then we wanted to talk about the election dates coming up. We have October 5th is when ballots are going to start putting in the mail. And so actually a little bit before October 5th, they're going to kind of look at who is registered to vote and turn that list into a mailing list and send it out. So really right now, you want to make sure that your voter registration is up to date and have it ready long before the 5th. That way you're in that first mailing and your ballot goes out just regularly. Still, even after October 5th, you can register and they will send you your ballot in the mail. If for some reason your registration gets screwed up or your address is old or something like that, even up to Election Day, November 3rd, you can go down to a vote center or polling place, to the elections office, and you can request a ballot even if you're not registered. You can do the same day registration.
Yeah, and just to chime in there, John, we talked about this last week, how, a lot of people get a bit anxious and they think that the deadline to register to vote is October 19th, but California specifically has same day voter registration. So that's what John is saying, y'all. You can just trot on down to your local polling place and get yourself registered. You also can, for those of you guys who might have lost your ballot and you can go into the San Joaquin Voter of Register's office and request an additional ballot. So make sure you guys are getting registered to vote. I know that you get tired of saying this, but if you don't vote, it just breaks my heart. Please vote, y'all. There's so much more at stake than just a presidential election, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah, and so to piggyback off the importance of voting and to recap a little bit of what we went over last week, is that I put up this slide and explained it last week about Lodi's demographics and voting. And Lodi's got a population of 65,000, and only about 15,000 of them are regular voters, whereas another 25,000 of them are either registered to vote and don't vote, or they're eligible to register and they're not registered. And so we have a big chunk of people that aren't participating in elections, and a very small group of people that's really deciding everything for us. And so last week we looked at Lodi, but I also wanted to go ahead and pull up San Joaquin County. And so this is for the whole county, and instead of each little figure being 1,000 people, it's now 10,000 people. And you can see that the graphic, and let me switch between them, is very similar in the ratios, but these numbers are much bigger. So when we talk about the people that are eligible and registered, but not voting, that the eligible and the registered and not voting together is 300,000 people. So about twice as many people who vote are eligible to vote, and they just haven't been. And so that's the San Joaquin County.
Yeah, and John, I am not going to get tired of saying this. Y'all, I'm going to talk to you just like very direct here. You guys, if you're a parent, if you are a worker, if you are someone that drives, if you are someone that receives any type of medical care, I mean, just breathing, right, is essentially being governed in some way or another by legislation, right? And so if you're not voting, right, you know, I love when people say, well, I'm not political, like it doesn't matter to me. And it's like, well, if you don't, you might not vote, but voting is dictating what's happening in your life. It's dictating what type of medical insurance that you're getting. Like it is, you know, how your streets are going to be fixed, what, you know, types of things that are your children are being educated on. I mean, come on, you know, 22% of Lodi registering to vote. And John, what's the demographic? I mean, what is the percentage breakdown of San Joaquin County? I mean, this is crazy. You know, we are dealing with, you know, so much. And I really just want to encourage you all, you know, there's no shame here. If you don't know what you're voting for, you know, it's never too late to learn. You know, I have my degree in political science, and, you know, part of the reason why I decided to go on this endeavor is not only my passion for civic engagement, but just the fact that even I, with a degree in political science, really didn't understand the magnitude of what things are happening at the local level. And, you know, the news, you always hear this talk about the presidential election. And I would, you know, dare say that the local elections and what happens on the local level is much more impactful and much more important than what's happening with the presidential election. And these are the things that you're going to see on a day-to-day basis of how these decisions that are made are governing your life. So I'm going to get off my soapbox for just maybe 1 minute, but y'all, we need to educate, share, register to vote. Knowledge is power. Political reform, regardless of what you believe, is essential to ensuring that we have a democracy. That's it for now. Yeah. Let's keep talking.
Okay, so Kim, I've shown you the Lodi stats, and I've shown you the San Joaquin County stats, and I've actually prepared stats for the whole state. And if you had to guess, would you guess that Lodi and San Joaquin Valley or County do better or worse than the state does as a whole?
Man, okay, this is a good question.
And anybody in the comments, you can guess too.
Okay,
Do you think San Joaquin has better voter turnout or worse voter turnout than the rest of the
I
state?
think it has worse voter turnout. What do you guys think, watchers? You think it has? Okay, I just said it is unthinkable. I know. I can't see your name because it just tells me Facebook user, but it's worse. Okay. All right, worse. Cody says it's worse. Okay, hey Cody, way worse, Cody. Okay, okay, Cody. All right. So,
okay, let's see.
Karen says it's worse. I mean, okay, y'all, we do not believe in the people.
We don't believe it. That's telling us that we feel like there should be change. Okay, so it's not immediately apparent from the graphic, but overall in California does slightly better than San Joaquin Valley and Lodi, but only by like a very sliver of a percent.
Y'all, I'm so happy. I've never been so happy to be wrong in my life. Hey, Cody, this is great, right? But okay, John, math. Okay, you guys, we'll talk about that another night because don't judge me, just love me, and we shall know that there is a reason why I have a poli-sci degree versus a science degree. So, I mean, John, let's talk about this. You said a sliver. It's just, just a little bit better overall. What do you think is the reason, right?
Well, actually, like the little bit better is more like it's statistically insignificant. And so what I would take from this is more that the issue that we see with the turnout and stuff like that. And looking at this graphic, you can see about 10 million people vote, and 15 million people that could vote don't.
Say that one more time. I'm going to interrupt you, and I'm going to say, did you say 15 million people? 15 million people in California don't vote.
They could vote.
And so Cody says he wants to say that on the primary in 2016, we had a percentage turnout of about 36%. And Cody, I worked that election, and I feel like you hit the number right on the head. I think it was like 36%. John, I'm going to ask you. So Natalie has and I'm going to answer her, but I want you to make sure if I mess up, we clean this up. So Natty, Lodi, based on the population that was able to vote, had about 22% voter turnout. On the demographics that John shared, we didn't break it down by Stockton specifically. We're comparing Lodi to San Joaquin County. So I don't know the numbers for Stockton City directly, but we can get those at a later date. But that second demographic was for San Joaquin County as a whole. John, did I get that right?
Yeah, no, you were 100% on. I was going to say the same thing. So the San Joaquin County, it includes Lodi, but it's the bigger pot.
Okay. And guys, we have a lot to talk about tonight. And this is I know, Cody, asked John when we were talking before this conversation, I said, I'm sick to my stomach about 25 times. John probably was like, okay, I get it. But I really felt like violently ill. And so I just want to kind of go off script a little bit here and talk about, some things that you can do to make sure you get your vote counted. Again, I'm going to drill this in. The ballots are going out October 5th. In Lodi, actually all over the state, I'm going to specifically talk about what we can do in Lodi. You have 4 days before the election, there's going to be 4 locations open in Lodi to have your ballot dropped off. It's not an actual polling place, but you can walk in, drop off your ballot. Those places are Da Vinci's Restaurant, Lang Twins Winery, Robinson Feed and Fuel, and oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the other place. I'll tell you guys later. And so you can drop off your ballot. You can immediately get your ballot, right? Check it out, do your research, and get that mail that in early. If you forget No worries. The polls open at 7 o'clock in the morning and they close at 8 o'clock. You do not have to wait in line to go in and drop off your ballot. Sign that bad boy, put it in the box, and the poll worker will tell you if you want a sticker. I'm going to keep it moving because we have a lot to talk about, but I will be sharing with you guys the specific locations and the times that they will be open so you can drop off your spouse's ballot. I mean, there is plenty of ways that you can vote. And also, one last thing about this, check your employer's employee handbook. A lot of companies have allocated time to allow for voting, and you can find that out by talking about your you can talk to your HR representative and find out your employer's specific policy on voting. I'm going to tap in, and Scar has a question, John, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. So Scarlett wants to know, are there any specific COVID instructions? Right now, Scar, to be fully transparent, what they, after my call with the office, what they are trying to do is make it more accessible for what we call drive-up democracy, to have multiple ways where you can drive up your ballot without actually having to interact with the poll worker. And the poll workers will be having specific training on how to sanitize and have to wear a mask and follow all of the regulations for California. But I say, get your ballot in early, participate in your drive up democracy 4 days before the election. Saturday, Halloween, before you go get your candy, drop off your ballot. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm so passionate about this that I am just talking. I'm going to hand it over to John, and I got a lot of hand stuff going on.
Yeah.
John, take it away.
What I also, just talking about the upcoming election, just one more second, is that not just the 4 locations in Lodi, the county is going to have 34 locations total. So even if you're not in Lodi proper, or you work in or outside of the city, as long as you live in the county, you can go to any of those locations. And if you live in a different county, they probably have locations open too. We're going to have thousands of locations open before Election Day and on Election Day. And those specific COVID instructions, there are like guidelines for the whole state to follow. And then there's more specific things. And so we'll see if we can look some of those up and have them for you. Maybe next week or later today if I can do it in the background. But moving on to our topic for tonight.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Is we're going to be talking about what's on the ballot. So let me do that. Yeah. So everybody in California is going to get a ballot with some pretty basic things on it. Specifically in Lodi and in San Joaquin Valley, I keep saying San Joaquin Valley, San Joaquin County, you're going to get basically these 4 items on your ballot. First, and this is in the order that we're going to talk about them, tonight we're going to talk to you about city council members and school board trustees, how they're elected and what they do. Also on your ballot will be the state assembly and state senate. So next week we should be able to talk about that. And another thing on the ballot are proposed laws, propositions, and measures that we directly vote yes or no on whether to pass those laws. Also on your ballot, and something we probably won't spend a lot of time talking on, is the U.S. House of Representatives, our Congress member, and the presidential race. And one of the reasons why we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the presidential race is because most people understand, who the president is and how important it is to vote for the president. But if anybody has any questions about topics that we haven't gotten to yet, or that we don't touch a lot on, please feel free to shoot them at us, and we'd love to talk about them. But for tonight, without much ado, we wanted to say that we're going to start with city councils and school boards.
And John, before you get started, I want to give one more piece of information for those of you guys right now. One thing you can do is if you're unsure about what's going to be on your ballot, you can go right now to votersedge.org and type in your address and your zip code, and it will give you a highlight of the candidates that are running in for the various positions. So you will see, based on your area, who is running for Congress and who is running for city council in your area. And I want to encourage you guys, do not just look at the name of the candidate and say, oh, this person owns a business and okay, I'm going to vote for them. You want to make sure that you are truly taking the time to understand what these candidates stand for. If they are participating in candidate forums, if they are having statements, now is your time to really research and educate yourself on what they are advocating for. And I want to emphasize, like what John said, if you have any questions about something, please reach out to us. Again, everything that we do here, I think that was something important that we didn't say, is from a nonpartisan lens. And I mean, I guess we're biased. We do want you to vote, but we're not here to tell you how to vote and who to vote for. We just want to give you factual information and encourage you to and educate yourself and empower yourself about these very important decisions that govern your life. And so just again, Voters Edge, John is wonderful, and he's already linked that into the chat for you guys to .org. Someone says it's linked in the chat, but it's votersedge.org. Great question.
I did pick the right address, right?
Yes, you did, but someone is asking, is it .com? And it's .org. Okay, and so so I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to John, and let's go ahead and talk about this.
Okay, so I wanted to point to just to start out our example city, the ones that we know and love, the city of Lodi, is run by like most cities in America, is run by a city council, and this specific city council has 5 members that is now going to be from 5 different districts within the city. So the city is broken down into 5 areas, and each area is going to pick their own representative. And Kim, that wasn't how it's always been, right?
No, John, I'm really glad you asked. So this was one of the things that really kind of sparked me doing this live is that I have lived in Lodi for 18 years. And I only recently found out that the city of Lodi actually had a threat of legislation by MALDOF. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, the Mexican American League of Defense. I believe it's don't quote me on that. And essentially what they found in their observation is that Lodi has a very large minority population, approximately about 45% of minorities here. However, we had never had any kind of representation. So election, the top 5 candidates, basically everyone voted, and they selected the top 5 candidates that had the largest amount of votes, and they were placed in a specific district. And why this is important is that if you lived in, right now we have District 4 in Lodi and District 5 that is up for re-election. And so if you lived in District 4 or District 5, your representative wasn't even, voted in by you. And so they could possibly be not advocating for your interests and the things that matter to you. So that's why this election is important. There are multiple candidates running in both districts, District 4 and District 5. And we may later kind of highlight those candidates' names. But again, it's extremely important because this is the first time that these districts, District 4 and District 5, are going to be able to select who directly represents them on their own, right? And so I just was really surprised that, we had this demographic of people in Lodi. And I was really surprised that, how the system previously worked. And, we don't want to get into the weeds with that, but I think it's really important to emphasize that you need to be voting and you need to be able to hold these elected officials accountable, and you want to be voting on someone that is advocating for things that directly impact you. And so I'm going to stop there, but thanks so much, John, for highlighting that, because it's extremely important. And it's actually one of the reasons why I'm here talking to you guys tonight is when I found that out, I was extremely surprised and shocked. And John,
yep.
Okay, one thing I wanted to say before that, John, I wanted you to tell me very, very high level, right? If you have 30 seconds, like before we talk about what's on the ballot, why are local elections so important? Like, I mean, why do I care? Why does Natalie care? Why does Cody care? Who cares? Like, tell me why I should care.
Well, most of the laws that we follow, most of the taxes that get collected and spent, really it happens at the local level. That we do have federal laws, we have the president and Congress, and we got the state legislatures and the governors. But the things that immediately impact you, such as the police station and the local ordinances, how many cracks are in your sidewalk, where you can park your car, how many pets you can have, how many apartments can go in a building, how tall a building can be. A lot of very important things to our daily lives are voted on at the local level. Whereas, the national policy for corn and milk are important things. Most of the stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day level are greatly affected by these local officials.
So, John, I'm going to take it really quick. I'm going to give myself that same 30 seconds. So if you own a home and you pay property taxes, right? Property is that money that paying is directly being funneled back into your state. Like Cody is saying, absolutely, Cody, the beautification, the aesthetics of your city, what money is being invested into the city happens at the local level. Another very quick example, public parks, like Cody is saying, what kind of enhancements are going to have. And something as significant as this is also 2008 or 7. My previous employer, Blue Shield of California, wanted to expand and build a beautiful building in Lodi. And at that time, the current city council, this is back when Bob Johnson, rest in peace, Mr. Johnson, was in charge. The city was against Blue Shield building in the Reynolds Ranch Parkway. So as an employee, one of the things this is my first kind of big civic, my involvement in democracy is I started attending the city council meetings and speaking up about how Lodi was crazy to turn us down because of the revenue that they would receive from employees eating out lunch and just doing business, right? Even if I live in Stockton, if I work in Lodi, the likelihood of me doing my shopping at a Lodi Walmart, a Lodi grocery store, actually increased time. I looked at all of those statistics and used that, my old speech and debate background to kind of advocate of why the city would be crazy to turn that down. Luckily, the city did decide. And if you guys see that big infrastructure of Reynolds Ranch Parkway, the only reason why that came to Lodi was because Blue Shield agreed to build. The builders decided they would build the Blue Shield at a very cheap rate because they could profit off of the other companies coming in. And I know that was more than 30 seconds. But, that's just an example of like things that are happening on the local level in your town that your city council is deciding. And so again, if you're not voting, right, you're not engaging in those decisions. And 22% of people are making these decisions on your behalf. Off my soapbox for now. Go ahead and take it, John.
Yeah, no, and so we've touched on like the general idea of like why local voting is important, why the city council is important, but I wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about what a city council is and what their job is and how they function. Because especially if you want to get involved and change something in your city, it's good to know what you're walking into. It's good to know who can do what and how. And so on city councils, council is the important word, is that it's a commission, it's a board, it's a group of people coming together to make decisions. And the way a city council functions is together. That the individual council members, at least in a city like Lodi, don't have any individual powers that are specifically granted by the government. They have a lot of sway. They have their vote on the city council, but like they can't walk down to an individual council member can't walk down to the police station and start ordering people around. If they don't have that power. The way they exercise their power is through meetings of the city council. And so each of the city council members gets a vote on the city council. They get time to debate on the city council. And they have to sit there and listen to us and come and talk to them in those meetings. And so really the function of the city council gets done through meetings. And John, so on that, have you ever been to a city council meeting?
I have, but are those meetings public for the people that are users that are watching? Are those meetings public? Can they view and see what's going on?
Yes, they are public. By law, the city council can't even really talk to each other without being in public, being at a public meeting. So like right now, if you go to lodi.gov, you'll see and click on council members, you'll get this nice page, and you can look up the council members themselves that are currently there. But you can also go to public hearing notices and meeting broadcasts. Since we're all doing the COVID thing anyway, all the meetings now are streamed. And what you get is agendas and minutes and audio and video, and you get the upcoming events. So the next time the City Council of Lodi meets will be their regular meeting, which is tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Okay. Go ahead.
And so I wanted to say that the important things that happen in your city all kind of stem from these city council meetings. That it's kind of a trickle down. The city council is responsible for hiring and firing the city manager, who is kind of the executive person that actually does the day-to-day work. The city manager then hires and fires the employees that work for them. And so it all kind of trickles down. So the part that's most open to the public, that is most direct and responsive to us, is the city council. But going back to that graphic that I showed, where in the city of Lodi, only, what was it, 15,000, only about a quarter of the people were making the decisions for everybody else, means that those city council members really only care to listen to that small group and to keep that small group happy. And so it's both important to be a part of that group and to expand that group to more people in the city. Especially if you are concerned about how the budget, for instance, is done. That's another thing the city council does. They hire and fire people. They set the budgets for all of the city departments. And I know, Kim, we were talking about the general fund and some of the ways that it's used. and and everybody on this call should already know what the number one biggest item on our general fund spending is in Lodi. But Kim, what is our biggest funding item?
So, John, that brings me to, I am going to, you guys, I'm going to laugh at John. So we practiced this before. I actually have the Lodi City budget for fiscal year 2021 up on my screen. So, John, I know the answer to that question, but I am going to ask the audience here, where do you think the majority of money is going for the city of Lodi? I would love to see what you guys think. And then, John, I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see if we can get a couple of guesses here so that the everyone that's watching can actually see the budget for themselves. Because, always fact check. So, do we have any guesses? Where do you think the majority of the money is going in Lodi? Jared Didmore says the library. Now, wouldn't that be wonderful? Wrong. Paying city workers, including the police department. Okay, Cody. All right. Any other guesses? Okay, no more guesses. Okay, I'm gonna go. PD, fire, workman comp, insurance, big. I like this. I don't know who that is, but it just says Facebook worker, big. I think of Sex in the City. That's a whole nother story. Okay, so you guys do not laugh at me like not that great with technology. So I am going to try to share my screen right now, and I am to show you guys this graphic of the budget. All right, so see, can you see the budget? Oh, y'all.
Give me a second. Boom.
Do you see it? I
can't. Well.
I'm sorry. Can you see it? You guys, I'm practicing here.
Not anymore. Now now we're looking at it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we can see it. And the biggest chunk on that pie graph looks like electric. Right?
Okay. All right. And so this budget, so I'm going to let John explain this. And John, I'm going to task you with, we love politics, right? We love this but our audience may, what in the heck does this mean? So my challenge to you, John, is to explain this very basic terms for our lovely audience.
Okay, yeah. So the overall operating budget is $175 million for essential services. Now, what I had asked specifically was what out of the general fund is the biggest ticket item. So just looking at everything, the biggest item on that pie chart was electricity. But a lot of that is earmarked. In other words, the fees that they collect for the electrical system goes to pay for the electricity. So it's already kind of a set special fund. Whereas when we talk about the general fund, we're talking about what the city council can really do whatever they want with. That it's not earmarked for something in the general fund. And that is the number one item of the general fund spending is the second item of that pie chart. So almost as big as electricity, which I don't know if you guys use electricity, but the second biggest item on that pie chart was police.
Right.
And so police, as Kim, you were telling me earlier, and I'm going to throw out the stat, represents 55% of the general fund. It doesn't represent 55% of the overall budget for the city. So they're not spending over $120 million on police, but they are spending $25 million. So over half of what they could choose to spend out of all the things that they choose.
Right. And so, John, I mean, obviously we want to keep this very nonpartisan, but I think that we would be doing our audience a disservice, right? If we didn't kind of just talk about the elephant in the room. So right now on your news, you hear a lot of defund the police, right? And you hear that word and it's like, well, wait a minute. We need police officers. And so again, I am not here to tell you what to believe in or what not to believe in. Kind of talk about this. Like, we're going to do this. So the police department is getting how much of our general fund, John?
25 million, I think was the number.
Like 55% of our general fund is going directly to the police department. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what does defund the police? I mean, like, what does this mean? Like, let's just break it down, right? So we've been defunding us infrastructures. It happens in budgets all the time. It's essentially a reallocation of funding. So I want to go back and I want to talk about something John talked about earlier, right? When you have a budget, you specifically, it's called in accounting and all of that, earmark, right? You earmark money for special things. You earmark it for like
okay,
the electricity.
We've lost you a little bit on the feed. Sorry, live stream problems.
Uh-oh.
You kind of froze up a little. I hear you now.
Okay. Okay, you can hear me now. Okay. So I really want us to get to the nitty-gritty and questions, but I want to say that basically defunding is not saying we don't need a police department. It is saying we want to take that money, that 55% of our general fund, and we want to take some of it out and plug it into different areas within society, right? And so I think, for me, when I honestly heard the defunding the police, I was really confused. I didn't know what that meant, right? And of course, we need officers, we need firefighters. But what we want to do to say that for you guys to really understand what it means. Again, it doesn't matter. I want John, John earlier this week talked about this, and I want to be respectful of time, but I think this is really, really important to kind of walk through kind of the conversation about the budget and what kind of things we could do, and kind of like just thinking about those things on a common sense, like nonpartisan level. Like, what happens with that 55% if we defund the police? Like, let's walk through that really briefly.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you compare the numbers, like 25 million to something like the city invests in economic development. They do it every year. They put money into economic development to help improve the economics of the city and the investing in the community and stuff like that. And that number is it's large for me. It's like $300 to $400,000, which is large for me, but I'm not a city. And so spending 25 million on police and then 300,000 on economic development, that doesn't seem to me like the right ratio. And you kind of see that ratio across the board, especially, I guess what I'm thinking of is if you're thinking of crime rates, if you're thinking of protection of citizens and stuff like that, well, economic development, working programs that push our wealth into our communities really helps the community and lowers crime rates and improves health outcomes. So economic development is a number that I would say, yeah, you should spend on. But another thing that you should spend on is social programs. That we need health programs. We need to take care of our unhoused. We need to take care of our renters at this point. And so seeing how we're dividing up this pie, I mean, anybody that sees that chunk going to one aspect of our government probably takes pause. and goes, oh, well, that pie chart looks a little slanted.
Okay. And John, thank you so much for that. Very, very, straightforward here. I want to highlight something that you said that is extremely important. And I think that this message gets missed with all of the partisan noise. And when I say partisan, I'm talking the left and the right, right? I don't care about that. Let's just talk facts. So I want to re-emphasize that investing in economic, reform and helping our citizens directly reduces crime in our community. Right. And so I want to say that, please, don't just listen to us. Right. Do some research. There's multiple, reports and analytics out there that support the fact when we invest in those social programs that crime reduces. Right. And so, right now, our country, I to be quite honest, like I said, I would be doing you guys a disservice if we didn't just talk about it. Our country we're literally on fire, and there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of noise from both sides. But what is missing right now is education and understanding. And all of the information that we're sharing with you tonight is available for your specific city, for your local government. And so I just really want to kind of debunk this narrative that defunding the police means that there is a lack of respect for officers, that there is a lack of on officers. It is basically to have a better and enhanced society. If you are for that, and even if you are against that, that is absolutely the beauty of having a democracy and voting, right? But I want you to truly understand what you are voting for, right? And that is really missing right now. And I say that as no shame, as someone who has her degree in political science, who has voted since she was 18, like we talked about on the first slide. I was that person. Ballot. I had no idea, didn't understand the things that I was voting for. So again, I'm not here to tell you, what to do. I mean, for me, honestly, it makes sense, right? As a citizen of Lodi, I want some additional funding to be going in for more programs that directly impact the quality of life for the people that are at a lesser socioeconomic disadvantage. I want programs available for people that want to open up businesses. I want our parks to be beautiful. And so, maybe I'm telling you a little too much, but, again, not here to say what to do either way, but I just want to talk about this in an honest way. I'm going to hand it back over to John.
Yeah, and so that's why we wanted to talk about, like, what does the city council handle, and also talk about these specific examples of how we might think that they're doing it wrong there in Lodi, or that at least we want to be aware of who's responsible for these things. And the city council, like we've talked about already, is they are hiring and firing the top level staff at the departments in the city. They are setting the city budget, which is a very essential thing that affects all of our lives, because it's not just it's basically money coming in from the federal government, from the state government, and from local property taxes, and it's just a lot of tax money coming into this big pot of $200 million a year is a very important amount of money for our communities to really get down. Well, who's responsible for handing this out, and how do they do it? And so that's the city council. The city council, and so the fourth thing that I wanted to talk about that the city council is responsible for are the laws and ordinances of the city. And so I wanted to bring that up real quick, is that pretty much inside of the city limits, the city council is the legislature. That they, as long as they don't conflict with laws that are written at the state level, that they can write whatever they want. If they want to say that movie theaters can only be open on Tuesday, or that you can only own one dog, or that you can't chew bubble gum on the sidewalk. They can pass laws like that. And so I pulled up and we're looking at the Code of Ordinances for Lodi, which you can just Google. You can go Lodi Code of Ordinances or Lodi Code, and you'll get this. And it's broken down into like 17 titles. Most of them have to do with zoning and permits and animals, health and safety, public peace, morals, and welfare. I don't know if it has any current laws about morals, but at least in the olden times, this is the section where you would find like don't be out at night, don't operate a massage parlor. There's graffiti abatement. So this is the law where they make it unlawful for any person to scratch, carve, paint, chalk, or otherwise apply any unauthorized graffiti on any public or privately owned building, fence, structure, or other property. So if you tag a property, this is the law that they'll apply to get to you. And so if you're interested in how your city regulates you, you should definitely check out the code. What you'll find in there are things that you didn't know were illegal, or you didn't know that you had to do a certain way. And it might surprise, it might shock you. And what you should keep in mind is that your vote on who sits on the city council dictates so much of our lives and the things that we're allowed to do, even in our own homes, in our own communities. And so I just wanted to give an example of that. And so we've covered that they hire and fire people, that they handle the budget, they write laws and stuff like that. And the last thing that they really do is that they're able to recognize problems in their community. They're able to recognize people who are doing a good job in their community. They're able to speak on behalf of the city and really on behalf of the community in one voice. I know a lot of cities have started to take up recognition of the climate emergency that we're in. A lot of cities tend to make statements that we're facing a crisis of racism in our country. And while those aren't specific moves that have concrete, immediate results, they can't pass a law that ends racism in Lodi. What they can do is draw a line in the sand. And so what we want in our city councils are people that will stand up for what is right in the world and what is good, because they really do represent us in a very close and personal way. So I definitely go get to know your city council, show up to the meetings, watch them on Zoom, that sort of thing. And that's kind of me getting off my soapbox now.
That's okay. This is a really important topic. And, audience, I'm going to ask you guys, it's about 8:08 and we're going to go over, and I'm going to try to keep it no more than 5 to 8 minutes. But I think that I'm going to take responsibility because I was way on the soapbox on multiple topics tonight because it's just so important. But I wanted to say that in Lodi, and I'm sure in other areas, they are actually holding a candidate forum on September 24th, where it's being hosted by a new Lodi. It's a new nonprofit organization that has been set up by some, friends, I'll be honest, but they have invited each candidate from running in District 4 and District 5 to participate in there. Not just the candidate that, it's just for you guys. And so I think it's really important for you guys to check that out and hear what these candidates have to say. Ask them tough questions because I want to go back and just really very quickly, 5 seconds, think about that budget. Okay. These people are the ones making the decisions on that $200 million that is coming into Lodi. These people are hiring people, the city manager, city planner, that are going to oversee this, right? And so we need to make sure we are putting the right ducks in the park. That totally didn't make sense. But anyway, I'm going to move on. But
no, I like that. We got to put the right ducks in the park.
Yeah, we got to. So you need to know who's running, what they stand for, what things that they want to see happen. And you should be asking yourself as a resident, what things matter to me, right? What things are going to directly impact my life, and how is this person going to advocate on my behalf? It is essential that you educate yourself and ask these tough questions. Okay, John, I'm going to get off the soapbox. I've been on it all night. I feel like I can surf on the soapbox tonight. Let's go ahead and keep it going. I'm going to be respectful of your guys' time, but go ahead and take it away, John.
Okay, well, at this point, I also wanted to, we got the question last week from Sarah Lutz about, how does voting affect change in our communities, really? And so, like, we've touched on that, but I wanted to specifically say that one of the things about participating in the election, you can at the very least turn in your ballot. Whether or not you filled out everything, you just fill out what you can, and you basically get to say, I was there, my name was on the list. You can walk into any elected official's office in the country and say, I'm a voter, you should listen to me. And so having that little bit of power behind you, of at least having the attitude of they should listen to me because I count and have counted is, I think, a very important step all by itself. And then what we really have is an opportunity that we get to do things like this, which is to talk to people. We have a date on the calendar that we get to coalesce around and really get into our communities. We have an excuse to knock on our neighbor's door. We have an excuse to do live streams. And so everything around an election really gives us that opportunity to organize in our communities. And the organizing is really the important work that we need to do. And yes, we need to do it on November 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on. We need to do it long after the election is done and the winners are chosen. But this is a great opportunity to start that organizing and to do stuff like this, which I'm having a good time with, Kim.
We're having way too much fun.
Like we don't have a live audience to clap, but I would say, everybody give it up for Kim.
No. So I want to add one thing really quick. Great explanation, John. But I also think it's really important to highlight at the local level, especially your vote, like to answer Sarah's, to add to what Sarah's question was, is that it matters because a lot of local elections are decided by a very small fraction, right? And so honestly, when you think about like, well, why should I show up? Especially when you think about things at a local level, like there's sometimes 20, 30 votes that make the difference. And you don't really see that. And I mean, you see it in the presidential election, but not as small and narrow as you do in local elections. So everything that John said and more, right? Your vote matters, and it could be the deciding factor on who wins. And very high level, right? Like I said earlier, in District 4 and District 5, we have multiple candidates running. And what that can cause, I'm not even going to talk about it in detail right now, is a split vote, right? Because there's so many candidates on the ballot, right? That the vote is not, it's not just like it's going to be whoever has the highest percentage, right? And so your individual vote could very well help be the deciding factor. So that's why I'm going to say to you guys, get your tushies registered, get your ballot filled out, and let's go. I mean that. So John, it's 8:14 and we haven't even talked about the trustee, right? And so,
Yeah, no, I just looked at the agenda. That was what I was like. I was vaping and being like, oh, where's my agenda? I've lost my agenda. We wanted to tell everybody about trustees for school boards, and I want to take 10 seconds to tell you how they work. They work the same as city councils, but they only handle school stuff. And they handle all the school stuff. It's very important. So we'll touch on it more next week. I think we'll do that. But I want to say what we said for city council, same goes for board of trustees. They all get together, they vote. They really handle all the business of the school.
okay. So when we talked about like the decisions that was made in Lodi School District 4, if our students were going to have distant learning, when we talk about if a weapon is going to be allowed to be carried by a security officer in our schools, those things are being decided by the trustee. So again, I am like surfing on my soapbox tonight. I'm going to stop there, right? And we want to, it's 8:15. We said we were going to talk to you guys for an hour. We want to thank you guys so much for showing up. We want to tell you guys to please subscribe to the Voter Access Project's YouTube channel and my channel, All Things KMB. And I'd like to stay on the line. I don't know if John has the time to just open it up, for a couple of minutes of some specific questions. And again, I apologize about going over, but we definitely want this to be a two-way conversation, and we're here for your questions. So, Natalie, it's our pleasure. We geek out on this stuff. So, do you guys have any questions? Is there anything that we talked about that wasn't clear, or maybe just a random question that you want answered? I'm gonna just wait around. I'll give it about 30 seconds or so if we don't see any questions coming in. So Sarah Lou says, can cities make laws regarding the actions of their police department? Great question. I know the answer, but I think John can do a better job explaining this. So I'm going to hand it over to John.
Okay, well, the short answer is yes. Yes, they can. The city council is actually responsible for a lot of policies and procedures for their police department, for really putting the police department together at all. If the city council chose to, they could disband the police department. They could make it into any kind of thing that they want. One of the things that has happened and that I want to touch on is that a lot of cities, well, most cities have entered into contracts with the police unions. And so a lot of the actions of like the current city council might be kind of restricted by those contracts with police unions. So that's like this is a thing that we all need to pay attention on and make sure that we're aware of these negotiations and setting up these policies and procedures that they kind of lock in so that they can't change it later, and they can go, oh, I'm sorry, we would change it, but we can't.
Right. Yeah, great answer. And so Cody chimed in and said, do we have a breakdown of the police department budget? So Cody, I don't have a breakdown, but I will tell you a quick search advised me that the little old Lodi, with a population of 65,000 people, $24 million is going directly to our police department. So we will get, and John might be quicker at the draw than me to actually get you a actual breakdown of the budget, but $24 million is going to the budget. And Abe, actually, he came in and he said, we need to be able to incentivize voting in a real way, like redeeming your voter sub for free King's ticket. And, Abe, I completely agree. I think the first steps that some companies are taking is they're allowing voting to be a paid day taken off. I know companies like Coca-Cola, things of that nature, are actually now letting the employees be paid to take off time to vote. Also, I just came across a nonprofit organization that actually was incentivizing registration to vote by giving youth $10, or I think it was $25 to vote. I'm going to say this, and I will tell you that a big reason why we did this series was because there is an incentive to keep people from not voting, right? It is actually, if you look at who is in power, the socioeconomic status of those that are in power, they kind of don't want us to vote, right? They want to stay in power. They want us to stay uninformed, and they don't really want to be accountable to a large amount of citizens. So it is advantageous against their platforms for the masses to register to vote. So I think that I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this very bold. I think it's intentional why they don't talk about what happens at the local level, right? I think that there is, we're going to leave it at that. So,
to pile on, instead of leaving it at that, I was going to point out some people might wonder why their county supervisor isn't up for election in this election, and it's because most general county elections actually happen coinciding with the primary. And if you're a realist or pessimist like me, you might look at that and go, oh, I get what they're doing. Our primary elections have lower voter turnout than our general elections. So they only want to be up for election when there's not going to be a lot of people voting.
Good.
And it's things like that that are really frustrating, especially when I do a lot of talking to voters and stuff like that, and trying to explain that basically to change the system, we have to work for years on it. Like we have to start ahead of time and being like, oh, we need to change the election dates in order to get better people into these offices. And like we were talking about MALDEF threatening to sue the city to get that changed to district-based elections, where each community gets to pick their own representative on the city council, is something years in the making. And to talk to people who have been fighting these fights for the last like 20 years to get this stuff done, there are successes. Like, so there is good stuff that comes, and that's what my hope is that we can keep improving things.
Yes. And you know what? I'm going to have this last question answered. Sabrina Sophia says, not sure if I missed it. I missed part of the live stream. Is the graphic regarding the city budget available somewhere where we can find it? Yes. And John shared the link before. Sabrina, if you go to the lodi.gov website and you click on, John is so awesome. He posted the link for us. All of this information is public record, right? It is public record, the budget. And so very good question. Pretty much it's available. It's available for us, but we are not educating ourselves. We're not asking the tough questions, right? And so when you kind of see those numbers, right, and you think about our city, right, and you think about things in our city that matter to you, that is why it is imperative for you to be out voting and educating yourself about who is running in each district. So I love talking to y'all. I love talking about this stuff. And, I want to thank you guys again very much for joining us and engaging and asking questions. The final thing I want to say tonight is that if you have questions, let's just say you in and you say, oh, shoot, I wanted to know this. Email us at info@voteraccess.org. Email your questions. We are happy to talk about them on our next live. Also, email us topics. If you are confused about something, John and I talked about doing just some short clips of information for you guys to share. Let us know what you want to know about. Let us know if anything was unclear. Let us know what we could do better. I mean, this is a labor of love between John and I because we're so passionate about democracy and civic engagement, but we're here for you. And the final thing that I'm going to say is today and this last week when I've been doing my research and educating myself, one of the things that I thought was really powerful was when I looked at the org chart for the city of Lodi. You know who was at the top of org chart, who was in charge? Us, the citizens. We are in charge, right? We are arbiters of our own destiny. So if you are not voting, right, what are you doing? I mean, I'm going to be very direct. What are you doing with your life, right? You wouldn't want the CEO of your job, right, to never show up, right? You are the CEO of this city, and we need you guys to show up, right? 22%, it makes my stomach hurt, you know? And so we have the power, right? And we're not using it, and it's unacceptable. It really is. And it breaks my heart, right? I feel so fortunate to be able to vote. And I just really want to encourage you guys. This week, I challenge you, talk to a friend, ask on your social media, instead of like posting about the president or who's running, just ask this question. Are you registered to vote? Do you know how to vote? Give that information, right? That is my challenge to you guys. And dang, man, next week we're going to have me on my just surfing on the soapbox the whole episode. So I'm going to stop there. I thank you guys for showing up for us. And John, I'm going to let you have the last words. If you have anything additional to say, I thank you guys.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate everybody watching, all the questions, and of course you, Kim, for putting this together. And if it's unclear to anybody, Kim put all this together and invited me along. And I'm very excited to talk to everybody again next week.
Call you real quick. Okay. Bye-bye, guys.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Oh, wait, here's my shirt. Wait. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Get it together, Lodi, in California, and everybody. Like, game on. Okay.